Are you trying to find guides for your characters that you want to build and use for fun? But most of the guides in YouTube are too long, and you just want quick guides that cover every aspect of the character that you wanted to use? I made this video as I try to cover every aspect of the character as quick as possible, while maintaining the balance between playing casual and playing meta. Welcome to the Genshin Impact Quick Character Guides, featuring one of my first 5-star on the series, and one of my favorite characters to play, Diluc. Diluc is a standard 5-star Pyro Claymore user that once was meta back in the old days, until more 5-star Pyro DPS are released, replacing Diluc in the meta, yet somehow being relevant in the modern days as more support were released that works perfectly for him. But in this video, we'll cover the basics as we focus on his playstyle, relying on normal attacks, elemental skills, and bursts, perfect for beginners. Starting with normal attacks with a total of 4 attacks, and that's it. Most of the time in every engagement, you will be relying on your normal attacks if your elemental skill is still on cooldown. Then his elemental skills that performs a forward slash up to 3 times. If you didn't cast again after you cast the skill within 4 seconds, the skill will be on cooldown. Most of the time, this is your main damage source when your burst is down, and it can recover energy for your burst. And his elemental burst releases a phoenix in his direction, dealing AoE pyro damage while knocking back enemies. After casting the burst, his weapon will be infused with pyro for 8 seconds. Take note that the pyro infusion can be override, so you might be careful when your team has abilities that can infuse characters' attack, like Candace's burst or Chongyun's elemental skill. And its energy cost is only 40, so you might be frequently spamming for his burst from time to time. As for the talents, since all of his talents are equally good, I suggest that you raise his normal attacks first, as it does possess high damage multipliers and it's your main damage source. And as for the skill and burst, you can decide which of them you need to raise first depending on the constellation that you have. While at it, his first ascension passive is to decrease the charge attack stamina consumption by 50% and increases the duration of the charge attack by 3 seconds. But Diluc doesn't rely on charge attacks. And as his second ascension passive is to increase the duration of the pyro infusion from the burst by 4 seconds with a total of 12 seconds, and further increases the pyro damage bonus by 20% as long as the infusion from the burst is active. And his utility passive is to refund ores when crafting claymores. Diluc's constellation mostly focuses on his elemental skill, starting from C3 and above, starting with C1, deals 15% more damage against enemies with 50% HP and above. C2, increase attack by 10% and attack speed by 5% for 10 seconds whenever Diluc takes damage, stack up to 3 times and only occur every 1.5 seconds. C3, increase the level of elemental skill by 3 up to level 15. C4, casting skill and redeem further increases elemental skill damage for 40%. The buff will be active after 2 seconds after casting the skill, and it will last for 2 seconds. There's an indicator that the next elemental skill is empowered by checking if the weapon's guard is in flames and its sound indicator. And this is what it looks like. C5, increase the level of elemental burst by 3 up to level 15. C6, after casting the skill, the next 2 normal attacks within the next 6 seconds will have their damage and attack speed increased by 30%. Also, the normal attack combo won't be interrupted after casting the skill. As for artifacts, the main stats are attack percentage or elemental mastery %, pyro damage bonus or attack percentage if you don't have one for Yoblet, and either crit rate or crit damage for Circlet. While the substats should at least consist primarily with crit rate and crit damage, attack percentage, elemental mastery, elemental recharge, and flat attack. But at least 2 of the 5 will suffice, especially crit stats since artifact rate sucks. His main artifact set will be always the Crimson Witch of Flames, which increases pyro damage bonus for 2%, increases elemental reaction damage, especially Vaporize and Melt, which is the perfect reaction for Diluc, And casting elemental skills increases the 2-piece set bonus for 10 seconds up to 3 stacks. If you're still new at the game and you could use some decent set, then the Gladiator's Finale is the perfect set for him. Since it increases the attack percentage for 2-piece set and also increase normal attack damage by 35% if the wielder is using Claymore, Sword, or Polearm, since you'll be spamming normal attacks. You could use Guilty Dreams if you're relying on elemental reactions, which increases attack percentage if the character on the team has the same element as Diluc, otherwise increases your elemental mastery. And if you have free na lying around and you want to try to utilize HP reduction from her skill, try the Marishosi Hunter, which increases normal and charge attack damage and increases crit rate by 12% whenever the current HP increases or decreases up to 3 stacks, which is 36% crit rate on 3 stacks. And as for the weapons, consider yourself a Diluc main if you have a Wolf's Gravestone, a 5-star Claymore that has a decent base attack with attack percent substat, and its passive is further increase attack and increase party's attack for 12 seconds when you hit an enemy with less than 30% HP and can be acquired in Standard Wish. Another option is the Beacon of the Red Sea with decent base attack with crit rate as substat, and its passive is to increase attack after casting a skill and another attack after getting damage, and also increase your max HP if the wielder is not protected by shield. But you can get this weapon through Chronicled Wish, which is only a limited time and its rerun is still unknown by the time of recording. And you can try to use the Red Horn Stone Treasure as it possesses low base attack but with high crit damage to compensate, and its passive is to increase defense and further increase normal and charge attack based on defense. And you can get this through Ito's rerun, but it's not recommended to roll for this weapon just for the substat unless you have Ito. But getting a specific 5-star weapon won't be easy, especially the limited and considering the 50-50 drop chance, so 4-star weapon is also a good alternative. Rain Slasher and Mailed Flower is a good alternative if you're relying on Veil. With both have elemental mastery substat, and the Rain Slasher's passive is to increase damage against enemies that is affected by either Hydro or Electro, while the Mailed Flower increases attack percent and elemental mastery after you cast a skill or triggered an elemental reaction, and it can be acquired in the past events, specifically in version 3.5 if you manage to play it. You could try to get the Black Cliff Slasher as a great damage substick, and it can be acquired at Star Glitter Exchange for 24 Masterless Star Glitter. And if you're still new at the game and still don't have a decent Claymore, Prototype Archaic is perfect for starters, which it can be crafted at Forge. I can't cover every weapon for him since I already covered the weapons that can be easily acquired and I already own. And you can get the Serpent Spine and Talking Stick with paid Battle Pass, which both possess crit rate substats. Now we already covered these builds, we focus on combos. I start with casting his burst if available, if not then I'll just kill first. Then 2 basic attacks, but I use 3 basic attacks here because of the C4 effects will be up after around 2nd to 3rd basic attacks. Then cast skill and repeat, simple as that. And if Xianyun's burst is active, just jump and click attack, and then proceed to spam plunge attack just like playing Xiao. And as for the teams, Vape Reaction is more consistent for Diluc, so bring someone that can apply Hydro consistently like Xingqiu or Furina. Then try to bring an Anemo character with Viridescent Venerer equipped for elemental rest reduction in every square like Sucrose or Kazuha. And the last part is for you to decide whenever you want to bring anyone like a healer or a support. Most of the time, I bring Bennett with me for attack boost and heals in his burst. You can replace with Xianyun if you have one in enemy slot for plunge attack playstyle, since Diluc has a high plunge damage multipliers. Diluc is still pretty fun to play even with the current state of the meta for Pyro DPS. He can carry you in early levels, reliable at best, and can with most of the DPS if built correctly, and no one stopping you from building him to perfection. That's it for this guide. Tune in next time for more quick guides. Thanks for watching and have a great day.